Right guys, today we have some pretty interesting leaks that could point to some upgrades and information about the 2021 iPad Pros. And well, let's discuss new colors coming to the iPad Pro, different dimensions, and possibly the 11-inch iPad Pro getting a refresh in 2021 after all. So yes, a lot of intriguing information to delve into, and so without further ado, make sure to like and subscribe, click that bell notification for the latest Apple news and rumors. And with that being said, let's just tuck in. Right, so usually I have a disclaimer as to who the source is of this information, and today's source is a pretty wacky one. So, the source of this information is the infamous Love to Dream. He has an accuracy rating of 89%, so he's clearly one of the top dogs in the leaking world. But you see, the catch with Love to Dream and his leaks is that he gives it in a cryptic way. So he has all this immense knowledge about Apple, but he gives this information via riddles and puzzles that we need to work out. And so yes, you can see the issue that arises because there are many ways of interpreting what I'm about to tell you guys. And so, of course, if you have any ideas yourself, let me know in the comments below. Anyways, delving into the leak, it's basically IDLWBBS. Yes, that sounds like gibberish, but of course, let's pick it apart and delve into the possibilities of what this could mean. So the first way of interpreting this could be iPad to look white, black, blue, silver. That does sort of make sense. So you might remember I made a video on Pig2 and their renders of the 2021 iPad Pro. You can check out the original video in the iCard above, but essentially in that video you might have noticed the iPad Pro came in a Pacific blue. And so I mentioned in that video there is a possibility you could see new colors on the iPad Pro, especially after the launch of the iPad Air, and so this leak could possibly be suggesting that. And yes, you can see the mention of a Pacific blue, but I think the dodgy part about this for me is the fact there are two versions of what essentially are the same color in Apple's lineup, and that is silver and white. Now yes, I know the white on the regular iPhones is slightly brighter than the silver on the Pro iPhones, but essentially they're pretty much the same color, and so Apple offering two versions of this does seem a little odd. Now of course, there is a possibility the silver could be more dark and metallic-like. That is very possible, but ultimately based on Apple's use of silver in previous devices, silver usually connotates a white iPhone in the Pro lineup, and so having a separate white and silver iPad, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And so yes, while there might be some truth to this interpretation, I think this might not be it. Now another one I came across was iPad design little wider but bit shorter. Now again, this pretty much corroborates with another leak I delved into in the past. You might remember it's some CAD renders of the 2021 iPad Pro, and pretty much in that they mentioned the iPad could be getting slightly wider and possibly slightly thicker, slight dimension differences, but nothing hugely major. And so again, the use of little and bit, that could suggest that this was true and the 2021 iPad Pro might be slightly different when it comes to the dimensions. Now of course I mentioned in that video, what about the Magic Keyboard and iPad accessories in general? If the iPad does have slightly different dimensions, do you need a new $350 keyboard? Well actually, I think I might have been wrong about that assumption because the iPad Air has different dimensions to the iPad Pro. It's slightly thicker, and yet it works perfectly fine with the Magic Keyboard, and so yeah, I don't think the slightly different dimensions should affect your use of your existing Magic Keyboards. At least I hope, but of course Timothy can be evil if he wants, and he can make you buy another keyboard for another ridiculous price. Right, so now we come to the sizes of this iPad Pro. So of course, one way of interpreting this tweet is maybe iPad's debut likely will be both sizes. Now of course, there is no mention of the iPad Pro specifically, it's just simply referred to as the iPad, and so I guess it could be referring to the budget iPad and the iPad mini, but personally I do think this could be referring to the existence of the 11-inch iPad Pro. So yes, another thing I've discussed in the past, but essentially one thing I've noticed with a lot of iPad Pro leaks is that there is no mention of the 11-inch model, and with the iPad Air being very similar to the iPad Pro, I've always had a theory that maybe Apple kills off the 11-inch size and gives us a 12.9-inch iPad Pro as the solo option. Now, a lot of you weren't happy about my thoughts, and you guys had some pretty good reasoning for why you think the 11-inch iPad Pro should stay in the lineup. For example, someone mentioned that the Magic Keyboard for the 11-inch iPad Pro has a distinct cutout for that specific model, and so if Apple were to kill that off, and then of course leave the Air to use that keyboard, it would look really odd because of course the Air does not have the same camera bump, and a lot of people might think, why does a keyboard for the Air have a completely different cutout? That seems really weird. Also, another great rebuttal point is that of course if Apple were to kill off the 11-inch iPad Pro, then why did they go through the hassle of making a keyboard in 2020 if they were planning to kill it off in 2021? It just doesn't make sense, and so yeah, that is a very valid argument. And so yes, maybe Love to Dream is confirming the existence of the 11-inch iPad Pro. Maybe it is happening after all. Now, of course, we are still unsure about which upgrades we will see on the iPad Pro 11-inch. Of course, Digitimes, who has connections within the supply chain, have only mentioned a 12.9-inch mini LED panel, and so much like the iPhone 12 Pro Max has some exclusive features over the rest of the lineup, I think the iPad Pro 12.9-inch will exclusively carry mini LED, and the 11-inch will stick to LCD, but it should get A14X and of course 5G. Right, and the final thing is pretty obvious to be honest, and that is iPad debut likely will be before summer. Now of course, this is really to no one's surprise because we've known forever now that we should see an iPad Pro in March, and so this could pretty much be confirming that. Now of course we are still unsure about whether we'll see the iPad Pro at the March event itself, because we have of course discussed in the past that Apple Terminal believes we could see the iPad's launch via some sort of press release instead, and maybe the event will focus on other products, which of course I've discussed extensively in other videos you can check out in the icon above. In fact, Sammy from Apple Terminal actually did say good catch on my tidbits. I'm pretty happy about that, and in fact he is actually interviewing John Prosser, which I think is his source. That's going to be pretty amazing, so I will make sure to listen for any interesting information John might tell us about the upcoming March event. Anyways, that's pretty much everything I could infer from this leak, but of course, as I said at the beginning, tell me what you guys think and what you guys can figure out from this leak yourself in the comments below. And on that note, thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, click that bell notification for the latest Apple news and rumors. Check out a video here in the icon above about the 14-inch MacBook Pro coming with an M1 instead of an M1X. And on that note, I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya, peeps.